Is Amumu Support the new broken pick of 11.17? Is Ghostblade a must-buy on your assassins now? We've got those answers along with a bunch of other sleeper OP champs and builds you'll want to abuse this patch. But before we get into it, be sure to check out SkillCapped if you want to truly get better at League of Legends. We're the only service that offers a money-back guarantee if you don't climb at least 5 divisions while actively using our service. We do this because our service really does work, and if it doesn't work for you, you shouldn't pay. Learn more at the end of this video or click the link in the description for a special discount. And with all that being said, let's get started. The Fleet Footwork buffs have made the rune a very strong pickup on a few champions you wouldn't expect, the first being Sett. The healing buff was really solid, and even though you're losing out on the effectiveness against minions, the power in those quick trade scenarios is amazing. One of Sett's biggest weaknesses is his lack of mobility, so the 20% move speed from Fleet helps him out a ton. The initial move speed from Q is great to close the gap, and then once you're in auto range, the move speed proc from Fleet helps you continue chasing. As long as you're able to stick onto your opponent, then you have no issues at all dishing out loads of damage. Fleet helps to enable this and is seeing a lot of early success in 11.17. Stat-wise, Fleet wins around 1% more than Conqueror, yet most players haven't caught on to how strong the setup is. What do you guys think of the Fleet buffs so far? They definitely seem a little OP on certain picks, but the rune has been so niche for a while, it's nice to see some variety come back into meta. To round out your primary runes, pick up Triumph, Tenacity, and Last Stand. Best secondary page is Second Wind and Revitalize. For the build, rush a Gore Drinker into Sterix second and round it out with a Titanic Hydra third. The Q nerf to Gangplank has resulted in Grasp losing a ton of value, and therefore many players are jumping ship. If you're unaware, Gangplank saw a nerf this patch to where his Q now counts as a ranged attack. Since the damage, healing, and permanent health gained from Grasp are reduced by 40% for ranged attacks, it's time to move on to a new rune setup. There are a few alternatives going around at the moment, but the rune page seeing the most success is Summon Aery. Poke from Q will hit harder when running Aery than Grasp, and being able to grab mana flow in runes is super nice as well. Transcendence and Scorch follow to round out primaries, and you'll grab Futures Market and Time Warp Tonic for secondaries. All in all, Aery will be best in easier lanes where you're favored in the early game. If you're in a more difficult matchup, then Fleet GP is proving to be a viable option as well. You're able to grab Presence of Mind and runes to help with mana issues, along with Tenacity and Coup de Grace. For maximum sustain in those difficult lanes, you can grab Biscuits and Time Warp Tonic. Since the Gangplank E buff allows him to scale harder with crit, a build of Essence Reaver into Shield Bow and Infinity Edge is now his best performer. A jungle pick who used to love running Fleet is popping off with the rune once again in 11.17. The champ we're referring to is Rengar. Fleet Footwork changes saw the healing to minions reduced for melee champions, but this doesn't affect junglers at all. Minions and monsters are not the same though, and therefore you'll gain the full effects of the Fleet heal buff while clearing your jungle. A massive reason to why Fleet does so well on Rengar compared to other champs is how his passive interacts with the Fleet charging mechanic. You need 100 energy to proc Fleet. Each basic attack grants 6, while 1 is generated for every 24 units traveled. When you're flying through the air with Rengar passive, you're traveling a large distance in a short amount of time, and therefore you're able to reach 100 stacks extremely fast. As you can see in the background gameplay, walking to the target dummy grants you about 28 stacks, but takes quite a long time. Simply jumping with passive grants you the same amount of stacks, albeit a little more since we had to auto-attack in a much shorter amount of time. Overall, the effectiveness of Fleet on Rengar is not to be undermined, and the stats back it up even further. Fleet wins around 5% more than the more common Conqueror in 11.17. Your 3 other primary runes will be Triumph, Alacrity, and Coup de Grace. Pick up Sudden Impact and Relentless Hunter for secondaries. It's not just the rune page that's super unique though, as Rengar players are rushing the buffed Ghostblade. The item is winning more than any other first purchase at the time of making this video, so we expect the trend to start taking over quickly. Sample core build is Ghostblade into Duskblade and Edge of Night. Another jungler whose viability with Fleet Footwork rises sky high for 11.17 is Kindred. Just like Rengar, Kindred has a very short cooldown mobility spell in their kit, which allows you to stack Fleet super fast. Kindred Q is on a 2-second cooldown at max rank when W is active, so your ability to hop around and gain quick Fleet stacks is amazing. Heal from Kindred W combined with the Fleet heal allows you to clear so much healthier and kite camps around way easier too. In those early skirmishes around Scuttlecrab, a couple Fleet heals in an extended fight and the extra move speed to kite can make or break the outcome. cooldown. Another thing to note in regards to Kindred's build is that Divine into Wit is still a top performer despite the nerfs. Kraken into the Collector and Fire Cannon is the most popular build, but Bruiser Kindred is still what players are winning the most on. Full rune page is Fleet with Triumph, Alacrity, and Last Stand. For secondaries, pick up Sudden Impact and Ravenous Hunter. A new Katarina build popping up over in EU this patch consists of a Luden's Tempest as your mythic item. Now, why would you want to build Luden's on Katarina when she doesn't benefit from mana? There are a few different reasons. Luden's passive cooldown is reduced when dealing ability damage. Katarina has the potential to spam out abilities relentlessly in fights due to her resets, and therefore proc Luden's passive a ton throughout an extended fight. The upfront burst from Rocket Belt will be slightly higher, however, the extended teamfight damage potential is greater with Luden's. Chucking Qs out for poke will also hit harder due to that Luden's proc. Luden's and Rocket Belt are performing almost identically stat-wise in 11.17, so choosing between the two based on preference and situation would be ideal. A sample full build is Nashor's Rush into Luden's 2nd and Zhonya's 3rd. For runes, grab Electrocute with Sudden Impact, Eyeball Collector, and Relentless Hunter. Optimal secondaries are Triumph and Coup de Grace. Alright guys, it's time to start building Zed correctly, as way too many players are overvaluing Serpent's Fang after the nerfs. Drop Fang and start spamming Ghostblade if you want to have the most success. Unless the enemy comp has multiple shielding champions, you should not be building Serpents anymore. Youmuu's is coming off a couple massive buffs, and it's the perfect second item for Zed. A smoother build path, 15 extra haste, and a cost reduction of 100 gold, all in exchange for 5 less AD is a huge win. Some Zed players are even rushing Ghostblade right now, and although the sample size is quite low at the time of making this video, Ghostblade is winning more than any other first purchase. Even as a second purchase, the item is heavily outperforming Serpent's Fang. Ghostblade users are laughing right now, winning 56% of the time compared to Serpent's users at 49%. Youmuu's is without a doubt a must-buy now for 11.17, as it's the perfect item for the solo queue environment. Move speed is such a key stat for someone like Zed to successfully pull off flank plays and rotate around the map faster. Shoving out side lanes and then being able to gun it over to mid lane in a split second to catch out the enemy ADC will lead to you winning so many more games. Complete core build is Duskblade into Ghostblade and Cyrilda's Grudge. Like we mentioned though, experiment with the Ghostblade Rush and see how you like it. Runes are Electrocute with Taste of Blood, Eyeball Collector, and Ultimate Hunter. For secondaries, opt for Transcendence and Scorch. The most underrated mid laner for 11.17 who counters the majority of meta picks is Lissandra. Liss has been buffed multiple times over the past few months and is finally starting to shine. We're really big on Liss for this patch, as she does amazing into LeBlanc, Zed, Yasuo, Katarina, and Sylas. Those 5 champions are the most played mid laners in 11.17, and Lissandra can run laps around every single one of them. Champions who rely on outplaying with mobility are so great for Liss due to her point-and-click lockdown. It's almost impossible for dive champs to jump into teamfights without being blown up with your chain CC potential. Although most Lissandra players prioritize Everfrost, look to try out Luden's this patch. Your raw burst is much stronger, which allows you to punish those squishy assassins harder when they try to jump in. After all, if you can one-shot them, the extra root from Everfrost is pretty negligible. Core build is Luden's Rush into Zhonya's 2nd and Rabadon's 3rd. Pick up Electrocute as your keystone with Cheap Shot, Eyeball Collector, and Ultimate Hunter. Best secondary page is Mana Flow and Transcendence. Back on top of the bot lane meta as the most underrated marksman is Senna. We definitely expected the buffs to offer a nice jolt in power, but Senna is performing much better than anticipated so far. 50% more souls on minion kills are what's really pushing her over the edge. The reward for farming on Senna is much greater than before, which turns her into a very worthwhile pick. With Divine Sunderer nerfed, there are a couple builds going around to try. Kraken into Fire Cannon and Rageblade is the cookie cutter setup seeing the most success. An alternative build being played in EU high elo is an Eclipse Rush into Manamune 2nd and Fire Cannon 3rd. Against squishier comps consisting of assassins, the Eclipse build will work great. Into more bruisers or tanks, the Kraken Rageblade combo will give you the shredding power. For the rune page, grab Glacial Augment with Free Boots, Biscuits, and Approach Velocity. Presence of Mind and Alacrity work well for secondaries. Lethality Varus becomes stronger for 11.17, however, most players haven't been taking advantage of the new build. Ghostblade is such a key component in so many lethality build paths, and you should be grabbing it 3rd on Varus, especially for a marksman like Varus who lacks a gap closer. The added mobility Youmuu's provides helps him space so much better in teamfights and kite away from dive champs. Being able to keep your distance and send out those long-range snipes from the back line is when Varus is at his best, and Ghostblade really helps to enable that. Core build is Duskblade Rush into Manamune 2nd, and of course your Ghostblade 3rd. The rune page is Hail of Blades with Taste of Blood, Eyeball Collector, and Ravenous Hunter. Run Inspiration for secondary with Free Boots and Biscuits. And the final OP off-meta pick for 11.17 is by far the most unique champ we've featured in a while, being Amumu Support. Plain and simple, the Q change is massive to enable Amumu in the support role and gives him such insane early kill threat and gank assist. Being able to stun the enemy twice within a 3-second window will lead to so many early kills. The fact Amumu Q has 2 charges now allows him to set up ganks better than most champions. You don't even have to give away the gank at all as you chill in the bush. Use your first Q to charge onto the minion wave and the second onto the enemy. The distance you're able to close is super nuts. There's really no counterplay to this engage range, which makes it so lethal. At level 6, the all-in power and overall skirmish potential is nothing to scoff at either. If you can hit the enemy with your first Q charge, layer your ultimate CC, and then latch on with the second Q charge after ultimate expires, the chain CC is unreal. For the build, a Locket Rush into Zanya 2nd and Abyssal Mask 3rd is looking to be the strongest so far. Aftershock is the keystone with Font of Life, Bone Plating, and Unflinching. For secondaries, grab Hex Flash and Cosmic Insight. The Hex Flash in combination with 2 Q charges makes your engage potential super disgusting. Alright guys, before we wrap this up, let's tell you a little bit more about SkillCapped. So we offer a 5-division rank up guarantee and think that's a pretty crazy thing to offer. It's like a gym membership guaranteeing you'll get ripped. Your local gym would go bust if they offer that, right? Not us. We've offered this for years because our service really does work. It works so well, in fact, that we're able to produce by far the largest catalog of premium league guides on the internet. We add over 20 videos a week with over 1,600 guides curated into over 100 courses no one can compare. We've also sent challenger players into ELO Hell 714 times and counting, where they commentate how to carry live. They also respond to all questions asked. Sign up today for as little as $4.99 a month if you're serious about improving. Alright guys, that's going to be all for this one. Good luck out there with all these underrated champs and builds. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you back soon.